I'll introduce it. Well, we got Peter Paget at home, and he's got another update on something rather sinister. And in fact, there's been a story today about a BBC journalist found headless, which is very careless of her. But that's a different story. But this is related in some regard because it's dealing with journalism and things. And Peter's got the TV on in the background, which is going through end credits of a movie. Well, good morning, Peter. Do you want to explain what we're expected to see in the TV?
Are we actually running now?
We are running.
Okay, we're running.
We are recording.
Let's just mark. Okay, and here we are on the 24th of August 2017, just 3 days after that amazing eclipse all across the United States. The television is on behind me because on H2, which is a channel that has lots of interesting stuff, there is about to commence and allegedly Area 52, which is by definition associated with Area 51. Come back to that in a minute because it's just firing itself up there, and I'm not really too much into that, but I just thought that was an interesting backdrop. Now, let's cover a whole bunch of stuff. Why am I doing this now? Because here we are, 3 days after this amazing eclipse, which was a very unifying and uplifting event for the whole of the United States, maybe the whole of the world. Lots of wonderful pictures on the internet. God knows how many millions of people took themselves to the corridor and produced wonderful artwork of that. But nothing else really came out of it. Which some people were disappointed because various websites were predicting everything from, new planets and new stars in the sky and Planet X and God knows what else. And that was conspicuous by its absence. There was allegedly some UFO reports from Kansas, which were caught on video. I don't know how authentic that is, but they look okay. And there was allegedly an object seen taken off from the moon while the moon was in kind of the blacked out stage. But I can't verify that. But the point is that this period of time from here on out, particularly from the eclipse here on out, is extremely critical. And as you probably know, the Illuminati, the Anunnaki, the elites, whatever you want to cliche, the power groups are very locked into timetables and calendars and dates and significance of numbers and numerology. Now, I'm not saying that numerology is necessarily totally valid. I'm just saying they are locked into it. It's kind of like,
why, Peter? Why this?
Why? Well, I would speculate that if you had 2 or 3 different organizations on different parts of the world who weren't necessarily communicating with each other, but they were locked into the same general background of the order of events, then basically they would all know when things are likely to happen because they've all got the same dateline. Now, I would say at Bilderberg, which was not that long ago, those people, those many eminent people that go there, are going there not so much to make policy as to be told by the steering committee and by the people who guide the steering committee what policy is to be. They are not there to make committee instructions, they are there to receive instructions. And then they know what's coming, which obviously in terms of their stock or their positioning or whatever, they know what's coming down the line. And that's partly what I want to cover here, because you need to know, you people out there, you need to know. And I'm going to review a few things. Some of them are historical, but they are relevant to today, and they're very relevant to the next 2 months. Because we're looking at my calendar right here in front of me. Here we are on the 24th of August. And right about a month away is the 23rd of September. And that's a significant date, running up particularly again to about the 11th of October. And this is a very, very poignant, critical time, both for the United States, the world, and in so many different levels. Now, let's hark back for a minute to 9/11. Boring, I know. Everyone talks about 9/11, but let's just examine what 9/11 did. 9/11 stole a large quantity of gold under the 7 building. We know that. It destroyed a lot of evidence that was in examination by naval intelligence. It lost, God knows, $3 trillion possibly dollars of debt, which had been again acknowledged in the Defense Department, and it created the war on terror in the new mode, plus allowing the invasion of Afghanistan, which, as you know, geographically sits betwixt numerous key countries. China, there's a corridor that goes down to China, Iran, Russia, very, very key area, which has been attempted to be controlled by the British for a couple of hundred years, unsuccessfully, because it's very difficult territory to police militaristically. And so 9/11, what I'm pointing out about 9/11, disregarding the, who did it or what did it, it was multi-layered. And that's the point I want to get across. It was very, very skillfully multi-layered.
Yeah, but Peter, it also linked the consciousness of millions of people on the planet. And Harvard University random number generators changed twice. So all our consciousnesses were linked like a sync pulse.
It was a key event, yes. And you could say, if you want to be positive, and I try to be positive, that maybe was a good thing. Regretfully, out of it came lots of war and mayhem and expense for the United States and everybody else, and the loss of British military lives over there. And of course, just the other day, Trump did a U-turn on his mandate when he was being elected by stating that he's staying in Afghanistan. And as you know, there's been a lot of turbulence inside the White House. And he's being leaned on. I think he's being threatened. Probably his family's being threatened. There were two stories recently which were significant. One was the Secret Service, the American Secret Service, who protect him, about 3,000 officers, declared that they are very hard pushed on a numbers game to protect Trump and his 18 family members, and that they're trying to rationalize the cover, because they're basically saying we're not quite sure whether we can give the adequate security cover that this man and his family deserve. And that was a significant story. And the other significant story was the fact that, I mean, I'm sorry to mention this, guys over there in Virginia, but the poppy production, the opium production in Afghanistan, since the Americans and other peacekeeping people went in, has radically increased. And the Afghanistan poppy fields are the major source of opium for heroin and other restricted drugs for importation into the United States. Need I say more? I mean, this is serious money involved here. And so, if the Americans came out of Afghanistan, the Taliban actually ban opium. They don't make money out of opium. I'm not on the side of the Taliban, don't get me wrong, but in the days of the Taliban, opium was illegal. The manufacture of drugs was illegal. It's a very good area for growing it, and they took it over and improved it because the triangle around Vietnam was getting a bit dodgy on production in terms of other people, having a piece of the action. So maybe there are reasons why Trump has suddenly made a U-turn and decided to stay in Afghanistan, because people have told him, well, we have ways of getting to you, and the Secret Service can't protect you so well these days. And he's caved in. Plus, he's surrounded by a bunch of interesting people, some of them on his side, some of them not. But I don't want to get drawn into American politics, because it's a bit like a stage show, and a lot of it is a sideshow. A lot of politics is a sideshow. It's total distraction from the main events. Let's get back, and let's go back historical now, having covered 9/11, the fact that it was multi-layered, is that we're now looking at this section of time in front of us at another multi-layered situation, where very many different things, apparently unrelated, are probably very likely to happen. Some of them, I'm sure, have been scheduled. Some of them, I'm sure, have been briefed to the Bilderbergers and other inside groups, and other people have been positioned accordingly. So what we're looking at here, people, is a very critical, this is not a drill, a very critical period of time where many, many things could happen, rather like the McKenna equation, where you have things coming into a focal point and so many things happen at the same time, apparently unrelated, but they happen in the same segment of time, which I'm flagging started in effect from the solar eclipse, because it was an event that everybody worldwide would know. That was an excellent starting date, and going particularly over the next month, and then 2 weeks further into about the 11th of October. So what are we looking at, guys? I mean, this is serious stuff. This is not minor stuff. I don't make these announcements at risk to myself casually. A lot of the detail of the old stuff will be found in the book Secret Life of a Spook, which covers very many different things. You have to read between the lines. You have to use the edit chip, the intelligence. Now, I want to cover a couple of things, and I'll switch my Mac on here, dear old Mac. A number of things which, again, you might think are unrelated, but I want you to remember this multi-layered function. A short time ago, a journalist called Liz McKean died unexpectedly, aged 52. What's the point of that? What's the significance of that? Well, she was the principal journalist that outed Jimmy Savile and various other evildoers, if I might use Dewar Bush's term, and was apparently about to out other information of an embarrassing nature to various eminent British people. Need I say more? Don't want to go too close to the line on that. She allegedly had a stroke, which, as you know, is a brain hemorrhage.
Which is a standard assassination technique, yeah.
Standard assassination technique, says Miles. There is equipment that I'm aware of that can induce both heart attack and stroke or stroke symptoms in a person. And as you know, if the brain is starved of oxygen for more than about 30 minutes, then it dies. They can bring them back when they've been drowned a bit for maybe up to 2 hours, believe it or not, but that's unusual. You have to cool the body down to do that. I digress. So I'm really pointing out that this journalist died under circumstances which people in my neck of the woods would regard as suspicious. And I'm pointing out to the agencies and people listening to this video that this is not the way to hide a story. It's like in the First World War, a chap goes forward, stands up in the front line, in the full line of the German infantry, and paints himself green in camouflage. What's he going to do? He's going to get shot. This, to me, this death, and other things I'm going to mention, is foolishness, and actually just highlights the nervousness that is going on in certain quarters behind closed doors. Now, moving on, let's go back to another historical item, which I want you to pay attention to. And I'm going to come back to this in two different ways. There's a French astronaut, lady astronaut, flown twice, once in Mir, once in space station. And her name is Claude Haignere. My pronunciation is not right because it starts with an H, but the H in French surnames is silent. So it's Haignere accent. Claude Haignere. And in 2008, she had a very, again, disturbing situation that she allegedly tried to commit suicide. I say allegedly because the French are fond of suicides. And coincidentally, at the same time, within 6 hours of her making this suicide attempt, which carted her off to hospital, her laboratory at the Pasteur Institute burnt down, therefore eliminating paperwork, samples, God knows what she was working on. Now, again, this is a very, very stupid cover-up, or whatever it is, that the person herself at home tries to commit suicide unsuccessfully, thank God. Maybe she was not given enough Mickey Finn. And then, within 6 hours, as is confirmed, this is all factual stuff, her lab burns down. She isn't there, she's in hospital, so she can't do it. So you have to ask, and this is in 2008, at the end of 2008, just in December, 2009 about to commence. What was it that her, as an eminent person, an accredited scientist, expert in her various fields, DNA and what have you, and flown twice in space, that she was trying to out, and she is alleged to have said, Earth must be warned, quote unquote. That has been confirmed. What was she referring to? Now, people might say, well, she was working on the origins of mankind, potential creation of human beings a quarter of a million years ago by genetic engineering. But I would assume, joining the dots together, that she had come across something in her laboratory, in her analysis of what she was working on, which was well-funded, very extensive, major institute, which she was so concerned about that she wanted to tell the world. A bit like Forrestal, when he was thrown out of a 16-story window of the Bethesda Naval Hospital, when he wanted to tell the world about alien interactions. And they got to him before his brother could pick him up that very afternoon, as was scheduled, and he committed suicide. Oh, what a surprise. Now, this comes forward to a fact that I am aware that there is a plan to depopulate majorly large sections of the world. Let's go back again historically a little bit. HIV, AIDS, was created by signature in 2 American military laboratories. It was targeted to A, homosexuals, and B, Afro-Caribbeans, namely Africa. It was distributed in Africa, particularly up the highways, so that the prostitution on those highways, which is fairly endemic, would spread it endemically to a large number of the African population, thereby causing a downward pressure on the population by killing them, by damaging their immune system, which is what AIDS does. AIDS doesn't kill you, it just prevents you from defending yourself against other things, which can be as mundane as the common cold. Why homosexuals? Well, I don't know. That's, but I'm just telling you that they were targeted to those 2 groups. This is years ago. This is decades ago. Now, this is known fact. This is like, this is signatured. You know that this has happened. Now, let's go back to another situation. And I'm drawing all these pieces together. This is where I'm saying you've got all these multi-layered bits and pieces. The governments of the world at the moment in recess. The United States government, the British government, all on summer holidays. This is the time when things tend to sort of get done, business gets done, and then when you come back out of recess and business gets going, share volume trades get going into a much higher level in September, early October, then what has been done now in this period tends to sort of surface and have effect. So I'm going to flag that there's going to be some financial corrections in the time when these historically take place. This means adjustments. This means bouncing up and down. A lot of people make a lot of money by the market going down in a bear market. A lot of people make money by the market going up in a bull market. They take bets. One American investor has bet $268 million on the market going down in late September, early October. And, he's not likely to he doesn't have to put that money out. He takes the contract and he bids against that, and if it works in his favor, he makes shed loads of money. If it doesn't work in his favor, then he gets a call, what is called a call date, and he's probably bankrupt. But he's confident enough to the fact that that's going to happen. And you've got people in various sectors which control gold prices, silver prices, stock market prices. They can be radically influenced by buying and selling programs and adjusting things. I mean, as you know, Deutsche Bank was pulled over quite recently for having their adjustments quite out of order. Lots of big fines. Nobody went to prison. But this is a standard procedure. So I'm not saying that this is necessarily a major 1929 dip. I'm saying this is going to be some ups and downs of a very turbulent nature. Keep an eye on that. I would say also the property markets, particularly in the United States, will take another dive. This is relevant. Now, I'm trying to avoid, because I actually do love this country, the United Kingdom, a delicate subject of we're coming up literally in a week's time to a very important 20th anniversary in 1997. Namely, I'm going to say it straightforward, the assassination of Dodi Fayed and the illegal killing of Diana, Princess of Wales. it was actually determined in court that it was an illegal killing. The thing is, they pinned it on Henry Paul. Henry Paul only was implemented insofar as he took that particular route because he'd been paid off to take that particular route. And I noticed to my dismay that the media, or whoever's telling the media what to do, are using dear Harry and dear William in a number of documentary type situations to sell the great lie. In fact, there's a story here that the paparazzi took pictures, I'm quoting, while Diana was dying. And the only, perhaps she was on the way to dying, but she wasn't actually dying at that moment. In the Mercedes, recently surfaced and was put out there quite legitimately, a picture taken from in front of the Mercedes, obviously from a motorcycle pillion rider, because it was higher than the windscreen of the Mercedes. With a flash, very strong flash, everyone was lit up. There's Diana sitting in the back of the Mercedes with her back to her bodyguard because the seatbelts had been immobilized. When that car was borrowed a short time before the accident and was then made available to Henry Paul at the back of the Ritz for the tragic journey, it was modified. And one of the modifications was the seatbelts were completely immobilized. So nobody in that car, either Paul, the bodyguard, Dodie, or Diana, had the facility of seatbelts. None of them were wearing seatbelts. Now, Diana was sitting with her back to the front seats and therefore had a better chance of survival than Dodie, who was killed instantly because he was sitting on the back seat on the right-hand side, as you see in the photograph. You can see clearly in the photograph that it's a very heavy flash. You can get the angle, and it's obviously, a significant piece of evidence. Why somebody has outed it, I think the agencies have outed it, because they tried to sell this story, this pup, that it was the paparazzi that caused the accident. They didn't. They were half a mile away. Half a mile away. All the witnesses on the bridge will tell you that. They were half a mile away. They were not there. Okay? And the car piled in. Why did it pile in? Well, it's all in the book. It's all in the book. I can't say too much on screen because we're technically on television. If you want to know what exact details, it's in the book. And that's, okay, received information. I wasn't there personally. I was there very soon afterwards, but I wasn't there personally, obviously. But there's some inside track in the book. It's Secret Life of a Spook. The significance of the date, and this is timing again, was that it was known from wiretap, and you disregarded wiretap, mobile phone, or what have you, that the very next day, when there was a improved situation legally, that Dodie and Diana were going to announce their engagement. He'd bought her a ring, as we know, that she was with child, and that they were going to move to Miami, where they had bought, or he had bought, a small mansion, and they were taking Princes Harry and William with them, which was, of course, terrible in terms of the British establishment losing control of the next king, because William, who I have enormous admiration for, wonderful guy, really, really nice person, is going to be the next king. Charles will never be king. Charles does not want to be king. He's said many times to people privately, he dreads being king. And dear Camilla, I can't see us having Queen Camilla. I can see us having Queen Kate. Harry is being set up and doing all these public bits about, oh, my mum. He's obviously extremely upset. It's finally coming out. His relationship to Charles is interesting. And I'll leave that hanging in the air because I don't want to cause any disturbance in the royal family. I have enormous respect for the Queen. I have enormous respect for Harry and for William. And others are family members. Princess Anne is also an absolutely wonderful person. What I'm pointing out, and again I'm talking to the agencies now, is that you don't put a fire out by throwing petrol on it. And what's happening at the moment, and it's so blatantly clear, they're setting up the princes and they're setting up these documentaries to run the great lies again, and the great lies will fall apart because there are numerous books, there are numerous people who come out, numerous people who knew things, who were there, eyewitnesses. You can't kill that many people. There's all those people who actually do know what happened. And this is going to blow back. This is going to blow back big time. I don't want to see the monarchy damaged. I don't want to see the British government damaged. But the agency people who were historically there, and we're talking 20 years ago. I mean, some of these people, most of them are retired now, for God's sake. You know, they should stop this pressure on trying to tell the great big lie about it was all down to the paparazzi. And no, it wasn't. It was a scheduled, very, very cleverly orchestrated assassination of Dodi, not necessarily intended of Diana. Diana was collateral damage along the way, which is detailed in the book. They wanted to take out Dodi because Dodi was a bit of a playboy, and he was he had connections with the Islamic faith, and that went right against the script of having this ongoing war, which has gone on, if you want, for hundreds of years between Christendom, Judaism, and Islam. Great source of revenue to have a good war. Oh, what a wonderful war. So I'm trying to engender in this interview a sense of responsibility in those people who are making very stupid moves by killing people. My book talks about when people I happened to be put in charge of were killing people. I didn't approve of it. I was there to look after them, stop writing their bloody books. And some of those were taken out. And I am very responsible in what I say, very responsible, because I believe in this country, I believe in this government, I believe in the way we operate over here. But moving on, I know you want to dip in there, Miles, but coming back at the end. Now, we're moving on to other more serious things now. Right, now, Thank you for that. Now, let's get back to this French astronaut lady. 2008, yesterday's story. You know, a few days, newspapers become trip papers, don't they? Everybody forgets. Everyone's forgotten Fukushima, which has poisoned the Northeast Pacific. Everyone forgets after a few days. You rely on that. Distraction, look here, look there, nothing to see here. So what did she discover? And I would speculate that she discovered the production of a pathogen which was designed to be released over the world, starting with the United States, has already done so, already begun, which would reduce population numbers to the level at which I should say they should be. We are radically overpopulated on the world unless we completely rearrange the economic structure of the world, got responsible about food production and about land ownership, you know, all of these things, which is not going to happen. And you can see at different times various countries, various social groups are targeted in order, like I've mentioned, the HIV targeting of Africa and homosexuals, although now homosexuals are very in, Obama, what have you. And so now we've got a situation where, in my opinion, and in my received information, pathogens are being released. They're being released. It is a fact, and this is a weird one, that Canadian government in the last week issued a directive, a briefing to all funeral director agencies, all funeral agencies that take care of putting people underground or cremating them, to be ready for a pandemic which would increase their work by maybe 5 times. 5 times. And there is a fact that there are stats on future projections of Canada which indicate that the Canadian population by 2025 is expected to reduce by 9 million over what it was last year in 2016. Now, in the same set of figures, ironically, and they've never explained this, and this institute will not back down on this, they project that the population of the United States by 2025 will be 70% less than it was last year in 2016. We're talking very serious numbers. We know that they've got stacked up caskets, plastic caskets that carry 4 bodies. They've got thousands of them in different locales. And what we know is that the Georgia guidestones have been modified, which is interesting. We know that NASA has just made an announcement prior to the eclipse that it was releasing a bacterial experiment in 50 locations by balloon at 100,000 feet, that's 10 miles up roughly, over the course of the eclipse corridor, which is apparently an innocent experiment. But why now? And we've got this statement from the Canadian government. So something's afoot. When there's smoke, there is fire, Miles. When there is smoke, there's fire. You don't know exactly what the fire is, but my God, something's going on. And I am flagging that in the United States specifically, and Canada, North America, there is likely to be a biological problem of major proportions, an infection problem. May look like plague, may look like influenza, maybe given a name like bird flu or something stupid, which is designed to reduce the American population because they've got too many workers, they've got too many low-paid people, they can't employ them all, and the people who control the cartels and the inside deep state have no value whatsoever for what they formerly would regard as slaves, and then slavery became illegal, and so they became economic slaves. You have a question, Mark?
Well, there's a lot of wind after that. I mean, in Northern Ireland, there was a lot of wind based on the destabilization of the jet stream. And in the north of the British Isles, an awful lot of stuff came in because the winds were basically being steered over from North America. That would mean that if there's been any spraying, we're probably going to get it as well.
Well, the jet stream has got some radical loops on it, and that's partly due to other factors. It's not so easy to steer the jet stream. You can heat up the ionosphere with HAARP. That's what it actually does. It's declared that's what it does. It warms up the ionosphere, and the idea was you created more atmosphere, and satellites that were going over crashed into it and then decayed. That was its original specification. I'm not so sure that the bending of the jet stream is under such man-made control. I think it's
well, it was in
anyway.
conjunction with the eclipse. There was so much severe rain and weather in Northern Ireland and in parts of Scotland that something. It looks as if something has steered something unusually.
Yeah, that was Gert, wasn't it? That was the ex-hurricane Gert that came over as a tropical storm. We do have an interesting situation here, which has always been the same, that the western sectors of the United Kingdom, which is Scotland, Northern Ireland, north of England, do get radically more Atlantic maritime weather than the south of England, southeast, London, home counties. That has always been the case, and it's the case now, where, as you say correctly, Miles, Northern Ireland can get really, really torrential rain. And that a year or two ago, we had Kendal and those places up in the Lake District that were completely flooded out, but other parts of the country escaped. East Anglia over here, which is on the east and southern part of the United Kingdom, is notoriously drier, be it that it gets the cold winds from Siberia in the winter. But yeah, I mean, we've had download of fallout from the airborne from Fukushima since 2011. We had fallout which was not really registered very, very cleverly. We had iodine-131, which has fortunately a very short half-life, about 8 days. But then we've had other things. Fortunately, the heavy metals, which they've allowed to drop into the North Pacific Ocean, because, you know, basically they go into the ocean, they get consumed by sea life, and they hopefully sink to the bottom. That's the theory of it. But a lot of the airborne, when they had that criticality, that's when a nuclear reactor blows up. It actually has a nuclear explosion. They said it was hydrogen, but if it was more than hydrogen. And they found plutonium, actual particles of plutonium, which is a very heavy substance like lead, 150 miles away, actual particles of plutonium. So that was a big bang. And we had pictures of it. It had a little mushroom cloud. That came over. Now, what we've got currently now is we don't have so much airborne from Fukushima, unless it blows off occasionally. But we do have this constant influx of wastewater into the Northeast Pacific, which was my last video was all about. For God's sake, don't eat anything out of the Northeast Pacific right up to the American coastline. And I've been writing to supermarkets and trying to stop them buying Alaskan product, tuna, salmon, what have you, wild salmon. Always look where things come from If they come from the Alaska, Northeast Pacific, for God's sake, don't eat them, because in 15 years' time you might produce cancer. It's as simple as that. If you get the nucleoid inside you and it lodges, because the body misidentifies plutonium as calcium, and it misidentifies iodine 131 as iodine normal and puts it into the thyroid, and it also cesium 137, 134. It misidentifies that as well. So anyway, back over to you for a moment.
Well, that's so basically we're looking at a calculated depopulation program in the West, or shall we say, the removal of unnecessary eaters.
Feeder breeders. We don't need the feeder breeders. I mean, excuse me mirroring these philosophies. They're not mine. I'm just the conduit. I can just see things. I'm an analyst. I can see things. I can see the silhouette. I can see the dots. I sometimes have very hard data. Hard data I cannot out. I can imply things and let you draw your own conclusions. But it's always been a case for decades and decades and decades that the power elites are always nervous of feeder breeders, unnecessary members of the population who are just going to damage the economies.
Is that on a more esoteric level, like soul trading? Literally, they take the soul energetics of the killings?
Well, that's another level which I don't want to get too far into because it's very complicated and we know very little about it. You have to get into shamanism and occultism and perhaps look at some of the Eastern philosophies on that, the concept of evil spirits and what have you. Some of that has, if you can get beyond the semantics of the language, you might be able to learn a few things. We live in a very material society that gives no credence to anything outside of this solid stuff in front of us. But we know that in this room I'm breathing air. We can't see the air, can you? But I'm breathing it. If I didn't have the air for a few minutes, I'd be dead, right? We've got, the television right here is receiving, and the internet is receiving waves and microwaves and what have you. We can't see them. We can't smell. I can actually feel them in my head. When I go past a big microwave tower, I can feel that the darn thing is give a pain in the head. If you go past a big microwave tower and you get a pain in the head, that's what it is. You're in a microwave beam. Get out of it as fast as you can. And they even put these damn things on top of hospitals and blocks of flats in London, which is they're cooking the people inside. Slowly, of course. Slow roast barbecue. And anyway, back to you.
Is there any are there any scientific papers that doctor wrote? Is there anything in, for instance, New Scientist or anything that people could look up about what her work was?
What
about the scientist that has been killed?
Yeah, well,
she suffered a stroke.
On the internet, you can Google her name, and the interesting thing is, which again is hiding in plain sight, is that she, in my opinion, and why should she not, was bought off. She was given various eminent positions. She was actually paid 21,000 euros per month, which is more than the French Prime Minister. There was a bit of a scandal about that. Why was she getting so much money? She was paid off. They probably said to her, well, you can take the soft option and get a load of money, or you can be dead. What do you want to do? It's an easy decision, isn't it? She's a woman. She's in France. France is a very centralized state. It has been since Napoleon than before. And, she took the money. I mean, she tried and she failed. And now she's director of a biggest museum. And she's an eminent person, and she's in a safe zone, and, I'm sure she did everything she could. But it's like a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people will, give backed up against a wall in a corner, will say, well, I prefer living, and, if you're going to offer me a cushy job and a bit of money and, back off the threats, well, it's an easy one to go. I mean, the Roman armies, when they captured soldiers of an enemy army, would say to those captured soldiers, you will be the mercenaries, they will go in first, you will fight for the Roman Empire or be killed. Well, it's an easy choice, isn't it? I'll fight for the Roman Empire, thank you very much. Miles.
What's the actual beef in the timetable on this? What are the critical things that people are looking out for in terms of why now? And is there any astrological or interdimensional portal things. Like a lot of people end up popping their clogs because some kind of alignment allows their souls to leave this realm in a sort of a stargate of some kind. Or I'm just talking rubbish.
No, I think there's an element of that. I mean, we've had quite a few deaths. I mean, I gave a date before when I was at one of the conferences, and various people did pop off. Some of them good, some of them seriously bad. And now we've got other people popping off. Dear old Bruce Forsyth popped off the other day. Dear man, lovely person. But all I'm saying is these are windows of time. Certain people go forward. They have the opportunity to miss the situation and go forward. Other people are needed here. You know, the dark side has been targeting the good side, if you pardon me being using that cliche, for decades and winning, knocking off people. That's a standard old Sicilian mafia mechanism. If there's a problem, kill the main problem and kill all the witnesses. That was always the standard thing with the mafia in Sicily, and a lot of that was incorporated into the CIA when they invaded Italy after in the Second World War. A lot of mafia influence and Machiavelli, all of those techniques they work. They simply work. If you kill all the witnesses, then basically there's nobody else to testify. I mean, Seth Rich. I mean, walking down, in the public to make a testimony, gets a piece of lead in the ear. I mean, it works. No one's looking into that, are they? It works, particularly in the United States or places where you have a lot of free guns and things get lost in the noise, because I think 10,000 people a year in Chicago get shot anyway, whereas over here it's just 2 or 3. Then we make a big deal of it when that happens. Yeah, I mean, there's something else I just want to cover. I'm just trying to draw all the bits together.
I'd like to talk about Elon Musk, and there was a thing in yesterday's Daily Star.
Yeah, just come back to that in just a minute.
Okay.
Hold that thought. What I'm pointing out is that a lot of karma, let's get esoteric here, a lot of karma, a lot of history is coming back to bite people in the bum. The Diana thing in a week's time. In my book, I give pretty full details of that. It's in code, but if you've got more than 2 brain cells working, you'll crack the code like that. You'll get to the point. Hear what I'm saying? You'll get to the point. That's a clue. And those people who are still official advisors, decorated by the Queen, they meant well. This is the daft thing. You can't just castigate people before the terrible things they did. They meant well. And maybe it was the right thing for history, but it was a terrible thing. History is full of tragedies. And I've had to deal with quite a few in my career and try to bring the best out of them, which is very difficult sometimes. And what I'm trying to do now is to literally stop this stupid killing off of people who are considered potentially in the way or going to blow the whistle, journalists, what have you. This happened in Stalin's Russia. It happened in China. It does not and should not happen in the Western world. And we have to stand up and say that. Miles.
We started out with Area 51, which I've got a few stories
51.
on.
They've moved out of Area 51, everything that was critical, because it became so public. It becomes it's almost like a sort of a public stage show, Area 51. And there was a program here which I didn't catch because it was just screened today on H2 about Area 52. Well, we know they went partly to, Puerto Rico, for various operations.
There'll probably be secret. They might have gone to secret places we're not meant to know about. Secret. I mean, it's meant to be a secret, isn't it? Except it's on TV.
Well, you see, there's 2 kinds of secret, Miles. There's secret, let's call it most secret, or beyond most secret. Like, you could argue Antarctica and what's been going on and is going on there is beyond most secret. It's very difficult to get anything out of there other than a vague idea. Some film crew disappeared, then they were found again, and then they were zipped, and then they disappeared off, and obviously there's something very, very secret down there.
Apart from the secret Nazi base, the Fourth Reich, aliens, Nephilim, tons of statues, 400 200 crates of black goo from Thule Island taken out by the British military during the Falklands. Building huge cities.
All of the above.
The South Pole moving out towards the ocean between Peru or something.
Well, it's melting a bit, and the Greenland ice sheet is I'll say that again. Greenland ice sheet is melting a bit from underneath. It's not global warming; it's volcanic. The Earth is heating up inside somewhat. Yellowstone, we've got to keep an eye on. Now, there's a quick subject we can cover. They had the NASA very, very sophisticated reconnaissance plane over there quite recently. It's been mooching about, taking readings. They've been closing it occasionally. Old Faithful's been blowing a bit more than often. And all of these are signs. It's a sign. And I'm not saying Yellowstone is going to blow, but I'm saying that she's certainly moving around a bit. I mean, it does go up and down a bit anyway, even with the moon going over. Earth will come up 18 inches just with the tide. That most people don't know that. You get the tides on the ocean. You get tides on land as well. But also the other thing underneath Yellowstone, you've got carbon. As well as magma, you've got a huge carbon reserve. Molten carbon reserve, which is perhaps that gets back to your black goo.
well,
perhaps it's a huge black.
No,
goo,
but there's some
goo pot.
there's some indications that there are major crustal or ocean floor levels are changing when the actual sea is dropping because the Earth's expanding.
Yeah, the Earth's expanding. It expands all the time, and we've had some very, very documented reports of sea withdrawal and then tsunamis coming in with no known cause, no known earthquakes causing that. So we are getting quite a lot of seismic movement which is not being recorded or is not being noticed. US Geological Survey notoriously underreports seismic activity and downgrades the numbers on the Richter scale.
I mean, in Britain we lost 3 counties. They sank off Cornwall. Are we talking about crustal displacement, which is going to bring new countries up?
Is very safe. I can recommend the Russians know it's safe. That's why so many Russians are living in London. Is the United Kingdom is very, very safe. We're on 64 to 68 miles of rock underneath, and the United Kingdom does tend to tip a bit. When the east side goes down a bit, the west side comes up. When the west side goes down, the other side comes up. That we know geologically. So don't worry about the United Kingdom. We could say Ireland because actually Ireland is all on the same plate. The Irish Sea is relatively shallow, as indeed is the North Sea, because we used to be connected to the European mainland many, many thousands of years ago, and then the sea rose when the end of the Ice Age.
I mean, we've got high Brazil.
I just want to flag one thing and then come back to you've got that other thing you wanted to ask me, is I've still got serious concerns about Cascadia fault line, about California, Oregon, Western Canada, even northern parts of Mexico. I still flag that you should really not be there. I mean, you're sitting on a time bomb. Roll the dice and pray to God. But I would not be there. I would not be west of the Rockets. Over to you.
There is a commission or a series of something like 116 scientists or special interest individuals have gone to the United Nations to prevent or try to stop the creation of war bots. That's to say robots with a war intent, on the basis that it will lead to the extermination of humanity, the extinction of humanity. That's in the front page of the Daily Star newspaper in England, and also it ran as a different story several months ago in the Times. And the connection to this is Elon Musk. He's going to save us all with his neurotech company to make us into cyborgs. And if we don't become a cyborg, we're toast.
I would say that the proliferation of robots in that manner or any manner is only viable if the human population is radically reduced first. It's a fact that if you're in an American family, I've worked in America 3 times, if you're in an American family and you have a renegade young man in your family, he gets sent to military school, military college. He ends up in the army or in one of the services, because he's taken care of, he's given some kind of outline and discipline, and the United States Army has a lot of people who would be dysfunctional if they were in civilian society. That's a fact. So you can't replace all of those dudes with robots, because what do you do with the spare infantry? What do you do with the spare soldiers that you got left over? Now,
Well,
if
you
you've
don't
got
have them to start with. You wipe us out.
Now, I know about this technology now, Miles. I know about what you can do. The Israelis are experts on creating highly technical field equipment. They even have a rifle that the sniper can be here. Here's a corner of a wall, and he can fire from that part of the rifle round the corner to a target, never being in sight of the target. They've had that for a long time. They delight in making these bits of kit. And yes, you have these caterpillar type little robots that have very, very high speed machine guns on them and video cameras and infrared sensors. Yeah, you've got all that stuff. But you've got to remember that all this kit doesn't, at the moment, really think. Yes, we've got AI coming down the line, maybe it could think. But then you're asking this robot to differentiate between he's friendly, he's the enemy. Hang on, he's wearing a head cap, he's wearing a head scarf, i.e. he's the enemy, bang, bang. Now, my point is that all of this is all very well in theory, but I've been working with computers for decades. They are not that reliable. It's junk in, junk out. It's the way you program.
But Peter, and you said it, and I said it, they are consciousness devices. And there are companies being set up to maximize on this mass particle optimization, the interface between computer and consciousness. I mean, this happened with my transmitters and stuff at my radio station. You talked about the big computer. You'd know when it was going to change. I mean, the thing about Elon Musk is, and he's probably, perhaps, would he, as a businessman, sell his product by creating a demand. Neurotech, I think that's the name of his company, the interface between the neurons of the brain with the machine. So the things that are going to be inside these robots are going to be people. It's going to be human brains.
Well, I in my book did tell the story of how way back, I found that I was interacting with the Birmingham University computer, the English Electric KDF-9. This is a long time ago. And Uri Geller was known to have done this. He actually went through a program of finding out whether you could interface with computers just using his own mentality. I say his own mentality. He's pretty cute kid. Yeah, we know all that. And I know some people say, oh, they're going to invent a way by which people can put their personalities into a computer, therefore they can live forever.
Well, that's British Telecom. That's the Soul Catcher program from good old British Telecom. That's the 1998. I mean, but the point is, there's companies I know in Belfast, and one of the requirements of getting a job there is your ability to interface with the computer on a consciousness level by playing a video game, and they are, shall we say, their business is mastering puppets. I wouldn't want to say too much more. But, I mean, Elon Musk, 116 scientists, United Nations, front page of a scientific newspaper called the Daily Star. Page 3 looks great. But the point is, I mean, this is reaching the public consciousness, the public mainstream of the concerns about this AI.
Well, I think you've got a very valid point, Miles, that all of these innovative technologies and nanotechnologies, you've got nanochips that can do far more than your mobile telephone, right?
I mean, we're talking Picho chips now.
That size, and can be working 24/7, and not only can transmit and receive data, but they can also induce states of mind. You know what about that? The lone assassin, hey. And then we found, hey, Napoleon had a microchip. This is a factual story from France. This isn't bullshit. He actually they found a microchip in Napoleon's head. Now, some idiot...
You cannot be serious.
We're serious. We're absolutely serious. It's absolutely authentic. Some idiot on the web said, oh, all these microchips that they found in people are man-made. Bollocks. I mean, we know that the microchips have been taken out of people have isotropic signatures that are absolutely off-planet. You cannot make that. There's stuff in those microchips that have come out of people's arms and eyes and ears and bums that he's not from this planet. We know that. So to try to kick it into touch and say, oh, these are all man-made, and it's British Army, or it's American Army, or it's PSYOPs, or it's whatever, all of that, is just a cover story again. I mean, the whole joke about issuing bollocks, flat Earth, whatever you want to call it, it's a hoax here. It's just like throw shit at the masses and half of them will believe it. It's gaubles. Tell the big lie often enough and it will become the truth. Now, I think that you people, I'm talking to the camera, talking to all the people listening, I think you are smarter than that. You are not that stupid. I would be very disappointed if you thought that we lived on a flat Earth. And they target people who've got good ideas and got good in research and try to latch onto this kind of this junk to them, because that then takes them down. Anyway, over to you.
Are you suggesting we should have common sense, Peter? I mean,
common sense. Yes, it's like Gandhi said of America when they asked about civilization. He thought it was a good idea. Yeah, common sense. Let's get everyone turning the edit chip on, using a bit of common sense and analysis, and comparing different things. And if something's in your face, right? Look here. This is the story of the day. It's on all the news channels at the same time, and it's got names attached to it, and you are being pummeled with this bollocks, this BS. Particularly if it doesn't check out with facts, then just switch off and don't even think about it. Switch off and find some information somewhere else, because I'm talking to the camera, you are not that stupid. And I've been studying human beings for a long, long time, and I have enormous faith in human beings. And I'm telling you, you are damn sight cleverer and resourceful and ingenious and discerning than other people treat you as, because television, as you probably know, treats the audience on television as having an IQ of 11.4 years old, period.
So, I think that's evidence with the failure during the last election, the Brexit thing. They were all surprised. How Michael Farage's party was so successful. The media were pummeling him, and yet the audience basically ignored what was on mainstream.
There will be no deal on Brexit with the European Union, and we will do just fine. I'll tell you that now. We have a secret weapon in this country. It's called the filing cabinet. Oh, I've got a piece of paper. Oh, that looks really interesting. The European Union wants a meeting next week. Filing cabinet. And we have been running the world with the filing cabinet secret weapon for centuries. It works every time. We will do a lot better without the Hitler, Nazi-induced, programmed European Union targets, which is failing not only in here, but in their jurisdictions in Spain, Italy, Greece, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, the countries that came out of Czechoslovakia. The European Union is a disaster. And when they lose the British contribution in 2019 or shortly thereafter, they are absolutely up the creek without a paddle. And they know that. That's why they want a huge divorce settlement, because they want us stupid British, nice people, to bail them out. And we're not going to do it.
Well, Peter, I'm shocked that you would actually get so radical. And for this little brief 15-minute, this was going to be a little 15-minute update about that scientist and the. I mean, briefly, just so we close, could you just summarize very briefly what that scientist and what is the basic story about that scientist, the French scientist?
Okay, I'm going to give you some basic facts. Okay, lots of vaccinations are loaded with determinators as to who will live or who will die. They will have in there a piece of molecular information that when they are triggered by something else, that person will then die. They will not die immediately like that. They'll die probably over quite a long period of time. Silent weapons for silent wars.
That's a binary weapon.
So the inoculation program, which has gone on worldwide, is ready for a triggering. This that's coming on, this pathogen, which I'm triggering, is between now and perhaps January, February of 18. It will come down, it's airborne, it will trigger, and lots of people will be mysteriously keeling over. They might be diagnosed with one thing or another, or they might just mysteriously have a chronic condition or an acute condition that becomes a chronic condition. But I would predict, I very rarely predict, because it's a dangerous thing to predict. And things often, even what we're doing today, will cause people to draw back and rethink and reschedule. And that's the intention of the exercise. I'm not here to castigate anybody or criticize. I'm saying there are better ways of doing things. And I'm just being flagged by my staff here that I'm about to have another appointment because it's coming up to 12 noon, high noon.
Yeah, high noon. Well, with that,
I'm going to have to close out on this. So get the book, Amazon, Secret Life of a Spook. We're issuing these two books by the end of the year. It will be The Welsh Triangle Revisited and UFO UK 2017. That is in production now. It will be on Amazon. And God bless you all.
and may your God go with you, as they say. Thank you, Peter Paget.